Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you. Let's get to it, everybody. I'm so glad that so many of you are meeting me on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please continue to do so. Like and subscribe. The Santita Jackson Show. And of course, I'm on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social, santitajackson.bsky.social. And I am still on X at Santita J, at Santita J. You can also go to the Santita Jackson Show there. But Santita J is where I'm a little bit more active. And then, of course, on Facebook, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Don't look for Santita Jackson. I can't accept anyone there. They're pushing people out. So please, let's get to it. There's a lot going on in the world, in this country. And I just think it's the age that we're in. But we're going to be 250 years old next year. Everyone's making a lot of that. And a lot of people have always made, but not enough of us have talked about the more perfect union. So I think that we have to ask ourselves who we are and where we're supposed to be. Not who we think we are, but who we really are. And a society, all people are judged by how they treat the least of these. It's biblical, yes, but if you really look at all of the great books that teach us how to live, at the end of the day, you're supposed to treat the most vulnerable with the most care. We're not seeing that happen. That's not the case in our domestic policies, in our international policies, as we interact with one another interpersonally. We can be so unkind to each other. And so I want to talk about what's happening on our streets. We have really sought, really off and on, to really make the police what they're supposed to be. I have a lot of respect for our police. And of course, we have some bad apples in the bunch, but they're not all bad. They're not. You have a lot of good people. And when you're in trouble, if you don't believe that the police can do some good things, stop calling them when you're in trouble. You expect them to show up, and in their best moments, they make things right. And I support that. And I want to see more of that. But what's interesting about our police, Rush Darwish from Arab Americans Forward and Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, who is the head of the Black Legislative Caucus, in the state that has more Black people than any state in the Union. That has now happened. They've surpassed Mississippi. We've always had our police could be identified. Our vigilantes couldn't be identified. The KKK couldn't be identified. They covered their faces. But our police, they have badges, they have numbers, they have their names. They let us know who they are. That's something for us to think about, everybody. Because now what's happening with the ICE raids, we're seeing these agents, they're coming at us military style with covered faces. Our police, yes, they're militaristic, but they don't cross the line because we are a civilian society. That was something that President Eisenhower, who had been the top general in the Second World War, he was very careful not to salute. The first president who saluted the troops was an actor named Ronald Reagan. And when they tried to prompt President Eisenhower to salute the troops, he said, no, 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 no. I'm no longer a general. I'm now the president. This is a civilian society. And as a civilian, I oversee the military, not the other way around. So I think we need to step back and ask about ICE and their tactics and the spirit behind that rush. Because what they're doing is they're frightening people. They're roaming MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. What's interesting about Los Angeles, as beautiful as it is for all of its wealth, they don't have parks. It's really not a city for middle class, upper middle class. Really, you have to be wealthy to really have a good time in LA. Let's keep it 100. And so, unlike Chicago, which has reserved the entire shoreline for Chicagoans, you can't build a house. There are like 5 or 6 houses in all of Chicago that are on the beach. because the beach belongs to everybody. I appreciate that about our founding fathers. That's not so in LA. Mm-mm. Um, you have parks in and even all over New York. Because as money centered as New York is, they really do care enough about people to create a space where you can go play. That's not so in LA. So MacArthur Park really does stand out. And so it means a lot when you see the ICE agents roaming, literally, they have been deployed into MacArthur Park with their guns, in their military uniforms, with their faces covered, menacing. Now, LA is in a crisis because people are not showing up for work. They're too scared to. Kids are not showing up for schools. They're too afraid. So, what does it mean to have a police force in America today whom you cannot identify, who come to you without identifying themselves? What does that mean? And they take you to parts unknown. And now we have an alligator. Well, it's a concentration camp down in Florida. That's what it is. I mean, I want to know from you, should we not know, shouldn't we know who the ICE agents are? Really? Shouldn't I be able to speak to you by name? Because, police behave a little bit differently. They brace up differently, Representative Reynolds. When you say, wait a minute, what's your name? What's your badge number? They start moving very differently with you. So, Rush, I know our time is more limited with you today, but we have been doing so much demonstrating for a minute, but we've been doing a lot of it, a lot. And I want to know from you, what do you make of the ICE agents and the fact that they don't obscure, they conceal their identities? Should we know who they are?
I'll tell you right now, we need to do more than just know who they are. This is a system that is targeting Black and brown communities. And I will say that this is a horrific situation that goes beyond just identification. This is inspired by hate. And I will be the first to say that, do we need immigration reform? Absolutely. No one in their right mind, and this is a fact, no one in their right mind will say our immigration system is good. It's actually terrible. So if President Trump is a real legislator and has a real vision for the future, then let's talk about how we could improve our immigration system. How do we go into neighborhoods tactfully and truly identify folks that maybe have that are here illegally, but based on they're doing bad things in this country. Studies have shown, Santita, in 2025 that over 65%, that's a big number, over 65% of the people that are being captured nationwide, including Los Angeles, do not have any type of criminal record. They are literally just being grabbed off the street because they look Black or they look brown. That's not an immigration system. That's a hate system. And we need to fight, and we got to stand up. It's a huge problem. And what's happening right now is racism at its finest. And I will be the first to say that, and I think Rep. Reynolds will also be the first to say that this is not about legislating. This is not about fixing. This is a hate campaign, and it's exactly what President Trump's base wants to see. It's why they voted for him. And the part that really burns me the most, Santita, what really eats me alive, is that more Black and brown voters across the country voted for him this cycle, including in parts in Texas. And I know I would love to hear Rep. Ron's take on this as well. My understanding, parts of the South Texas where Hispanic populated areas voted for this guy. This is unbelievable. So yes, we demonstrate, and yes, we have to fight, but it's a little bit softer this time because we, as I guess the Democratic Party, or a party that is against this, we've lost that core support because they voted for Donald Trump. They voted for this. So this only empowers President Trump to say, hey, wait a second. This is why people voted for me. And how do you fight that when you have the data to back it? It doesn't mean that we don't keep fighting, but it just makes it a lot harder.
Representative Ron Reynolds, because I think a lot of people didn't vote for this, or they voted for this until it happens to them. Right? So I just talk to me. I mean, Representative Reynolds, your thoughts?
I want to Definitely. Thank you, Santita, for bringing this topic to fruition. Rush is spot on. We need comprehensive immigration reform in this country to create a pathway to citizenship. This is a nation of immigrants that was founded on the backs of immigrants. So let's have a real conversation. But that's not what President Trump is doing. That is not what was in Project 2025. He wants to create chaos. He wants to create mass hysteria, and he wants to scare uh, immigrants from being a part of our fabric. And it is about power. It is about relenting power, and it is about creating havoc and fear, in which they're doing that. They're creating fear for many people of color in this country. And that is what we're seeing. So they're not really about immigration reform. They're not really about law and order, because he's not going after what he said originally, hardcore criminals. He's not doing that. He is targeting any and everybody, people that had no criminal record, people who were here in school, people that were here working on construction sites and whatnot. He doesn't give a you know what. And so, Santita, let's call it for what it is. This is about racism. This is, as Russ said, red meat for his MAGA base. And that is what they're doing. They don't, and many people, to your point, Russ, they voted against their own interests. Many people, Hispanic men was the biggest increase in Trump's voting in terms of demographics.
Mm-hmm.
He improved significantly with Hispanic men. Santita, 92% of Black women, as you know, they didn't go for the okie doke. An overwhelming majority of Black men didn't, but the numbers, he did increase marginally with Black men. So here we are with these terrible policies. ICE is roaming around indiscriminately. I've talked to people in schools that said that ICE, there are kids that are afraid, families are afraid to send their kids to school. I talked to superintendents and say we used to be able to say that the schools were a safe haven, but we can't say that anymore because ICE is coming into our schools. And we've been told by our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, that we could not deny them access. And so here we are where they're afraid to go to school. They're afraid to show up on job sites. They're raiding construction sites. It is shock and awe. And this is the kind of atmosphere that is by design. And so, Santita, again, ICE is not there for law and order. They're being weaponized to bring havoc, chaos, and fear. And part of that is to not have their identity shown. Part of that is to create that mystique, that hysteria, where they don't have to necessarily identify themselves. So you've seen how they have done elected officials. Imagine how they're doing ordinary citizens. And so my heart goes out to many people across this country, particularly Black and brown, because those are the targets of ICE. They're targeting them with surgical precision. They're not targeting other immigrants. They're targeting the darker hue ones. And that is all by design.
Yeah, it looks like, and I just want to add, as Santita
Santita,
gets the
you're on
mic
mute.
back on,
Oh,
I want to add this real quick. You mentioned about the working class, Rep Ron, and that's the part there that people seem to forget. You know, the Hispanic, the Latino population, even here in Chicago, they take on the jobs that are
yes,
really hard. And
that's right.
I attended an event about 2 months ago about a lot of restaurant owners who are freaking out because a lot of their workers, a lot of the employees don't want to show up to work. And who else are going to do these like really tough jobs in this country? And that's the greatest misconception that we have right
That's
now, is
right.
this idea and this ideology that, I'm going to be blunt here, that Caucasian or white America feels that they're coming in to take our jobs. I'm like, are you guys kidding me? This
Yeah.
is, it's all a lie, and there's facts to prove
It's
that
it's
nobody's
totally a
taking
lie.
any of your jobs. These are jobs, respectfully, and I know there's probably not an eloquent way to say it. These are really tough blue collar jobs
That's
that
right.
Americans don't want, like, you know,
That's right.
white America doesn't
and,
want. So
and they don't want them because we did them and we were so disrespected when we did them. See, you know, I mean, we continue to move this coconut around. You know, this it's just, you know, it's whack-a-mole.
That's right.
Instead of respecting workers, which we don't do, what we do is we continue to import some people so that we don't have to pay them much or pay them as little as possible. And that is the corporations do. And see, because in 1986, Mrs. Coretta Scott King and many other Black leaders were pushing back against this wave of migrants they were bringing to the United States. Not because they didn't like brown people, because they said, no, you're trying to replace Black workers, which is what they were trying to do, because Black people were at the vanguard of pushing for fair wages. And we said, no, you don't get to know, you're not going to take that like this. You're going to, you know, cut us in or cut it out. See, that's part of the history that people do not really understand. And because I want to speak to Etheline, and I appreciate your coming in, because she said she supports ICE. I want you all to see this and respond to her. And I know you don't have much time, Rush, but I want you to respond to this. I support ICE, she says, and quite frankly, they should not be attacked by protesters and illegals. Although, you know, I hear you, Etheline, but I would never call anyone illegal because we're all legal in God's eyes. But I'm hearing you. You said, thank God Trump closed the border. Otherwise, another 20 million illegals would cross under his administration as under Biden. I hope you do know that this has been corporation policy that our government has signed on to. Under George W. Bush, Black people, and it was primarily Black people who were pushed out of New Orleans and the Gulf, they were not allowed to go home and rebuild their homes. The Department of Labor relaxed their labor laws to bring in people from South and Central America, Rush, and Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. I saw it happen in real time. So they could import these workers to rebuild New Orleans and the Gulf for cheap, while they pushed Black people out of New Orleans and busted up their political power base. We need to understand the game that we're all being gamed here. And I was saying when I was muted myself, this, it's Black and brown people today. It's going to be poor white folks tomorrow. It's going to be everybody else after that. Nobody is exempt. Nobody.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, as a Black person, Etheline, after the Civil War, we were illegals. We had to fight to get an amendment to make us citizens, because the plan was to put us out of here. They looked at us as illegal people, and they wanted us out. You had the American Colonization Societies and other organizations like that who had a plan going into the Civil War to get us out of here. They were like, we're moving into an industrial revolution. We don't need these people anymore. We were the illegals. We did not gain citizenship until after we got the amendment that made us citizens. We were not automatically citizens after the war. We were just wandering around here, and we had no rights at all because we were not citizens.
Well, I will share this with you regarding Etheline, and this is really the truth, and I hope I don't sound kind of harsh. Etheline makes these points about illegal aliens. Here, we're making it very clear that no one in this chat is saying that we should not protect our borders. We absolutely should. There's a line that is crossed from protecting your borders to targeting Black and brown members of our community, not even knowing what their status is from an immigration standpoint, and just grabbing them. And these are folks, again, without any prior criminal records. So for Athenia, I think what's important for her to know is that what we are doing here, and we're not the only ones, we are standing up and fighting because maybe Athenian doesn't feel it right now, but this is how this works. It starts right now like this. And if you don't resist, it only goes deeper. And unfortunately, and I know Rep. Ron, you probably know this as well, is that there's a lot of folks out there who, because they don't feel it, because their house has not been invaded, because they're not affected because I'm a U.S. citizen. The way they look at it is not my problem.
Wait a minute,
You know,
Breonna Taylor.
that is where the problem is. And
What
by the
happened with
way,
Breonna Taylor, Rush?
yeah,
This woman, this girl was at home. This young lady was at home with her boyfriend, going to bed, and the police busted down her door and they killed her.
yeah.
While her boyfriend was trying to defend her. If someone busts your door down in the middle of the night, if you have access to a weapon, you surely are going to wield it because you don't know who's coming through your door.
So, and that goes to our point is that what we are here today saying that we are fighting for that person so they're not the next one, so that they're not the next victim. And a lot of people, unfortunately, do not have that foresight that the way that we are seeing this. And by the way, I'm going to make one more point. I know that the Republicans and the Trump administration, they love to use the word woke. Oh, we've got to take on the woke world and the woke society. How hilarious is that? Because woke just basically means that you're paying attention and you're able to identify what is justice or an injustice. And that is now being labeled as watch out for those people that are involved and know what's going on. And let's make sure we keep everybody stupid. Because that's exactly what Donald Trump, what dictators want is for everyone to be stupid, bend a knee, and whatever I do, it goes that way. And if you challenge it, then I'm going to destroy you. That's the purest form of a dictator.
But Rush, what we have to do is look at the people around him. Ronald, this man, he will be out of office at the end of 2028, and he might run again. They said, longer. I got it. But it's the people around him. You've got to listen to Peter Thiel. You've got to listen to Elon Musk and the people behind them, because they're people who actually are above their pay grade, believe it or not. You need to know Alex Karp. Too few people know him. And when they hear about him, they'll be excited that you have a black billionaire. No one could be more right-wing than he. They put out the policy that they were going to hire people who were pro-genocide. And they actually brag about the role that they played in helping Israel commit this horror against the Palestinians. We need to understand who these people are, who the wizards are behind the curtain. The people are pushing these policies. And not just there. I mean, it is South Africa. These are the people who are pushing, who are trying to shut South Africa down for having the nerve to stand up against imperial powers, plural. And we've got to step back and look at and understand what we're dealing with. It's not, we keep looking at this one person who was a great salesman. Justice Reagan was a great salesman. He's a great salesman. That's what presidents do. But you know what? There's some people who never leave. And those are the people who are at the heads of these corporations, Rush, and State Representative Ron Reynolds. And Ron Reynolds, Representative Reynolds, you know it because you're in elective office.
Yes.
These are folks who stay. They no matter who's in your seat, they have a seat in your office. But
That's right.
Before you respond to that, Rush, I know you've got to go. I want you to be able to. I'm not pushing you off. You can stay as long as you want. I love that.
I got 8 minutes, so
okay. Well, then
I got a little time.
Representative Reynolds, please respond, because I want to talk about. I want to talk about that. Because Tracy Powell said the lack of sensitivity from Black Americans is partly because we feel that brown folk have not been great partners. I hear you. Sure, leaders throw around Black and brown unity, but rank and file Black Americans don't have that experience. You know what? I hear you. But that's not with all of us. The most conscientious of us understand that the only way we're going to win is together.
That's right.
People have been able to win because they keep us at each other's throats. Look, we have to have a real conversation with our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters, and I'm very specific about that because most of them are indigenous, but they speak Spanish. And then many of them are actually European-derived, and they identify as white people. And they have as big a racism, anti-Black racism problem in their community as exists in others. And I am feeling you. I hear you. But that still does not take away from the fact that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together. The only way, let me tell you who's together. The imperial class are together. If you think that Donald Trump, I don't care how much Donald Trump and Elon Musk fight, you better not don't get in between that fight, because honey, where they're together is on their money. These people, they are locked in step with each other on their money, on power. We need to be the same way, and we need to challenge those people who are not great partners with us. Because Black people have been the change agents in this country. The only reason you know about a Palestinian Rush Jarvis is because Black people pushed for that. The only reason you have birthright citizenship is because Black people pushed for that. Everything that makes America what America's supposed to be is something that Black people pushed for, specifically. Because we're the only ones who can't be white. So we're the permanent conscience of this nation, because we are the readily identifiable other, but we're still your brother and your sister too. So I understand where a lot of us are coming from. I really, really, I get it. But Ethelene and Tracy, you got to watch mistreating people.
That's right.
I promise you, it's coming. If for selfish reasons, it's coming our way. Breonna Taylor showed you that you're not safe in your home. Trayvon showed you you're not safe in your neighborhood. We keep seeing these. I mean, Philando Castile, they keep showing us you ain't safe. And they're showing you that they're not only going to arrest you, they're going to take you wherever they want to take you. And it might not be in this country. And because you are not white, they will assume that you are other, and they will send you someplace else, Rush and Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. We keep forgetting ourselves here, I think. I really do.
Santita, I want to say this, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I'll never forget one of the most famous messages. Basically, was when they remember the saying, they came for the, let's just say the Indians, and I wasn't Indian, so I didn't say anything. When they came for the Palestinians, I didn't say anything because I wasn't Palestinian. Uh, when they came for the Christians, I didn't say anything because I wasn't Christian. When they came for me, there was no one else was there. But that is where we have to be. We have to be united in purpose and commonalities, and we're stronger together. We need to build coalitions. The only way that they continue to be effective, Santita, is keeping us divided. Blacks versus Hispanics, Christian versus Muslims, men versus women. We need to make sure that we have a solidarity, pro democracy, multiracial agenda. That is what we need so that we can have collective. No, we're not going to agree on everything, but if we can agree on those core things, and I think that we share in terms of freedom, we're against police brutality, we're for voting rights, equal rights, things like that, then let's focus on the things that unite us, and let's come together for that common purpose of fighting our oppressor. And that oppressor is really pulling the strings by keeping us distracted by fighting amongst each other. And that way we can't unite. If we unite, game over,
Do you see
right?
that in the state legislature? Is that
I
what you see?
do. Absolutely. I mean, we don't say it out loud, but there's dissension when it comes to Black and Hispanics on issues that we shouldn't be fighting over when it comes to redistricting, when it comes to contracting and opportunity. So the way that they keep us separated is they keep, playing us off of each other, and we're not wise enough to see it. We need to have statesmen, elder statesmen in the room that have the experience, building that rainbow coalition of your father and others, knowing that it wasn't just John Lewis, but it was Jewish people. It was other people that worked together in solidarity that were part of those freedom rides. That's what made it so strong.
Well, I mean, and look, we were the engine. Okay, let's
Yes,
be clear.
no doubt about that.
Because Black folks, these people joined us after we started our fight.
That's
because they
correct.
also saw where they could benefit. And some of
That's
them,
correct.
what they felt like, you know what, this is my fight because I've been on the downside of that. There was a gentleman who sat on the front row at Push every week. He just passed away within the past 10 years. And it turns out that he was a Holocaust survivor. And my brother Jonathan used to go to the facility and pick him up every Saturday. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. And he spoke with a thick German accent. And he said, you know, and my brother asked him, you know, why you're the first person. Yeah, I mean, you are almost the first person at the building on Saturdays. You know, and clearly he was way up in age. And he said, you know, I left the hall, I escaped, and I thank God I was able to get out. He said, but what shocked me about the land of the free and the home of the brave is that Black people were being treated worse than I was treated over in Germany.
Mm.
He said, so I could not help but get involved. And I want Etheline to understand that I am not picking on you. I would never do that. I would never call you out in that way. I don't function that way. I don't do that. You said that, you know, your conscience tells you that Black Americans cannot continue to support rampant illegal migrants coming to this country, taking jobs that Black Americans could have, but we don't want them. Let's be clear. We are citizens after all. My family have stood 10 toes down for Black people, and you know that better than anyone. So please, no one has fought harder for Black folks than Reverend. Look at what happened with the Essence Festival. They can't get their sponsors. You know who used to push to get Black folks sponsors for their events? That was something Reverend did when he was on his feet. So with all due respect, I'm not the one. You said you don't mistreat people and you don't appreciate your position being characterized as mistreating people. No, what I'm saying is I'm speaking to your sensitivity, my sister. That's all. I understand you're trying to fight for us, but while you're fighting for us, you don't need to fight on or pick on someone else. Even if they come out of the fight really not understanding who fought for them, Rush. Because that happens with us too. And Black people, quite frankly, are tired of that.
Yes.
Now we are tired of not getting our due from people who go on and wait a minute after they make it, they're brown in this generation, and when they make it, they become white.
Yeah, well, Santita and Rep Ron, one thing that the greatest misconception when it comes to race in this country is that, and we all do it as well, we focus on the poor class. And of course, when we talk about ICE raids, we talk about the poor class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you really quick on my final words before I head out. Here in Chicago, there's a town, you may be aware of it, Santita. It's Orland Park. It's about 15 miles outside of Chicago. And this is a highly affluent Arab American community that we should be very proud of. These are people who worked really hard, became professionals, and their houses are all $500,000 and up. Guess what? The community in Orland Park is greatly divided. And what I mean by that is the folks who are non-Arab or the white community, they can't stand the Muslims. They can't stand the Arabs. They can't stand those Palestinians. So the lesson learned is that these are folks who work hard. They are folks who have great jobs. They are folks who pay high property tax. They go to great schools, and they're really great people. And guess what? They still hate them. They still hate us. So the big lesson that I've learned from that is when we talk about racism, it's not just limited to the lower class. It is to the middle class and the higher class. So our fight against this group that don't like us, it's much greater than just the ICE raids. And I just want to throw that out. So thanks, everybody.
Amen.
God bless you all.
God bless you. It's Rush Jarwish, everybody, Arab Americans to forward. And I would tell you, we're all together. Because I will tell you this, Rush, really quickly before we leave. My mother and I used to shop every year up until I was 12, because I did not get, what is it? I didn't get, what is it? I couldn't get Christmas gifts. My mother, after 12, that was cut off. She said, it's Jesus' birthday. It's a religious holiday for us, and that's it. So, okay, not a problem. We had gone shopping, and we were standing in line waiting to get into the restaurant in the store. Beautiful place. And the women in front of us were about to tell, they were telling a series of ethnic jokes. And we just stood there. My mother touched my hand. Don't say anything. And then they were about to tell a Polish joke. And they turned around and looked at us and they froze. And my mother just smiled, not grinned, just a polite smile. And when we were seated, my mother said, you do know that we were next. Okay.
Right.
We were next. So let's be clear.
And that's why I want us to all be on the same side. And this is this issue that we're talking about attacking communities now, literally going into schools, these ICE raids that are happening. We understand there's an ideology behind it. And unfortunately, you either have to experience it, being a Palestinian American, or you have the ability to empathize and feel the situation, that this is not an attempt to make our immigration system better. It is based on intimidating. It's based on breaking up families and causing nothing but chaos. And that's why we have to fight this. And it's not an easy fight. Let me tell you that right now. But we got to keep fighting. We have to resist ICE. And by the way, Santita, I want your take on this. Is it fair to say, though, that ICE is not, should we associate them with the actual police force? Because I know they kind of operate the same way, but to some degree, I would find it almost an insult to associate ICE agents with like your local police force.
You know what? The thing is, you're in the continuum. And that's why I think that you make a brilliant point. Police unions should stand up and say, we both perform very similar functions, but the way you are performing your job imperils me. Because if people cannot fight back against ICE, they're going to fight back against the police. We have to be very, 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 very careful about where we are right now. This is very, very dangerous, because if you're not careful, this is how authoritarianism works. It doesn't happen in one fell swoop. Typically, it happens by degrees, everybody. You look up and you're in a police state because you haven't paid attention. It's like being the rabbit in the pot on the stove. First, you're in that, feels like nice room temperature water. Then it's getting warm. Okay, that's nice. Then it gets a little too hot. Oh boy, wait a minute. And then it starts boiling, and then, baby, you're cooked. We have to be very, very careful. But I want to engage you, Ethelene. You said illegals, undocumented people, are occupying jobs that Americans would work. That's a fact. And you can start with construction and long haul trucking. You're right. I'm not implying that we don't want to work, because I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that to be okay. The problem that we've got is that we have cut out vocational education, which is a pathway into a job coming straight out of high school, if that is your gift. So I want us to fight the right fight, Ethelene. We're not fighting the right fight. We need to be fighting while we're looking at this big, beautiful bill that's going to make it harder for people to go to college. And we're not even thinking about a whole lane of employment, a whole lane of education that we've abandoned, which we should not abandon, which is vocational work, trucking, construction, and all of the things that fall under those umbrellas. We need to be fighting for that. We need to be fighting for that. So let's push for that. I'm not trying to beat up on people. I want to push for the work. See, going upside people's heads. We're playing a dangerous game, and we're playing into the hands of our oppressors. when you start beating up on other people. We need to have the movement discipline to understand when we are being played. We're being played. And they sit back in their meetings. I know, Etheline, because I've been there, and they laugh at us because they know that they are playing us. ICE agents haven't murdered anyone, maybe not physically, but they're murdering spirits. They're frightening people to death. Nobody deserves that. We don't deserve to have police roaming our neighborhoods, intimidating us. Nobody deserves that. Nobody. And you got to take it up with these corporations. I keep telling you, you all keep looking at Trump and everybody else. See, he's a salesman. That's what he does. Look at the corporations that want the cheap labor in here. They're the ones who are bringing them in. I don't know how many times, Etheline, please look up Tent Partnership for Refugees. Please. Please. It was signed under the Biden administration, but NAFTA, that was, the Republicans tried to get it through, but they didn't have the personality to get it through. So they had a Republican light who Bill Clinton really was, because he was from the right wing of the Democratic Party, and he was able to get NAFTA through. It got bipartisan support, and it was a bipartisan betrayal, Representative Reynolds, because it took jobs right out the country. If you're not fighting for vocational education, what are you talking about, ma'am? Well, you're talking about fight. Then, if you want to fight for Black people, then fight for those jobs. Fight for that kind of education. Fight for it. Get involved in an organization and fight for us to open up some of these vocational schools in our communities. I'm not willing to fight people. I want to fight for principle. So let's stay there. If you're going to start deporting illegals, then you need to just deport the pilgrims, because they sure did not ask permission to come here. We have a lot of nerve. A lot of nerve. And you must look at these corporations that are pulling these people in. If not, you're missing the point. Then continue to fight, Etheline. I don't know you. And you barely know me. You might know about my family, but you don't really know me, and that's all right. And keep on fighting, but fight the right fight. Be a civil rights activist. Keep on with it. But let's come together. And I'm not going to fight you. That's not where I'm not giving you that kind of energy. That's not where I am. Okay, you or anyone. I'm not here. I'm glad that you're fighting that fight, because we need you and a whole lot of people, a lot more people like you. I'm saying let's fight the right fight. I'm not fighting people. I want to fight for principle, and I want to fight for some solid, some achievable things. We need some vocational schools in our communities, so we can have the truckers, so we can have the people who work in construction, the plumbers, the masons, all of that. We need that. I love HGTV, not as much because they've been canceling my favorite shows like Married to Real Estate, and you know, this couple up in Detroit. They would find these. They would go in depressed areas in Detroit and bargain block, and they would remake these homes, and they'd furnish them second and third hand furniture, and they'd sell these homes to people at these great prices to get them started. They canceled that show. They canceled several shows that I liked. But you know, when I look at the Food Network and when I look at HGTV, those are the trades. But we don't have any schools for those. We need to have them. So let's talk about that. I'm willing to have that fight. Then keep on fighting. The Republicans have a plantation too. I'm not fighting for a party. You need to understand where I come from. When Reverend ran for president, I don't want you to misunderstand what he did. The only lane that was open to us was the Democratic lane. And, you know, we had young Black Republicans for Jesse Jackson. You know, Armstrong Williams, yeah, he was in our campaign. We had a lot. George Haley, Alex Haley's brother, he was part of our campaign. You have to be, look, and one of my best friends who just before I got on the air, she's a big old Republican, big. I we don't fight about parties. When she gets into the halls of power, and trust me, she is there. She calls me and says, now, what do our people need? And she is pulling for us and trying to figure out how to help us when she gets there. That's something that Gloria Toot and William Colvin and we historically would do. We've gotten very selfish in our politics, Representative Reynolds.
That's right. That's
We're
right.
so excited about getting to the party that,
Yep.
oh, you're fighting. I'm not fighting to be on a plantation. I broke off of that a long time ago. I don't do plantations. And you need to stop talking about Democratic plantation and while you run it over to a Republican plantation. Stop plantations. We've all been put on a plantation because it's two wings of the same bird that's still going in the same direction, and we're all getting jammed. Poor people do parties. The privileged do power, and they're never out of power. Start there. Whoever is in office, you should not be losing. I'm not afraid to talk to Donald Trump or his people. He's the president. He's my president. I didn't vote for him, but he's my president. And you know what? If he can get more money to these HBCUs, which he did in his last term, I'm going to work with him. And where I need to fight him, I'll fight him. We at least need to be politically mature enough and savvy enough to do that.
That's right.
Stop slamming people who are affiliated with a party. That's how this system works. What you need to do is fight people, or fight for the principles. Fight for things that we all need. Representative Reynolds, I'm so glad you're back.
No, hey, I see you. I love you fired up, sister.
Well,
I love it.
I am fired up because I think we're fighting the wrong things. And then, folks, you all come on here and you all will go after me in ways that you would never go after Sean
Never.
on his show.
Never.
No,
Never.
because I'm here and I'm available. I'm okay. I signed up for
Right.
it.
Right.
But I'm simply saying to you, let's stop. Don't play with me.
Right.
Because you know what? When Reverend ran, he opened the door for Black Republicans too. He helped to make not only Black Democrats, he opened the door and set up Armstrong Williams and Black Republicans. Nobody was thinking about Black people. Black people were on the menu. We didn't have a seat at the table.
We did not.
Had nothing. So now, when they celebrated Reverend at the British Parliament, he's the first person in the history of the Parliament, which has been in existence for more than 1,000 years, the first non-British citizen to be honored by them. When they had the big luncheon for him, you had people from the far right and the far left. And many of them were people of color. And they said, you know what? And the white people said, when I saw a progressive running, I felt that I could run. I saw right wingers who were people of color. They said, when I saw him run, it made me feel I could do it. So that's why I'm here today. Hey, let's start fighting for humanity. Let's stop beating up on each other. Stop it. I don't care what plantation. I don't want you to be on a plantation. Just
That's
vote.
right.
I'm not talking about a plantation. So don't use that language. Just
That's
stop.
right.
Just don't use that. It's provocative, and it's not even helpful, and it's beneath you. I'm not tossing around names. I'm telling you about the history that I've lived. And you're not a no-name person. You're not a no-name person. I'm not tossing around names. I'm telling you about the history that I've lived. And when I lived the history, Ethelene, nobody liked these people. All my life, until Reverend ran for president, the Congressional Black Caucus seated us at the back of the room. We used to laugh about it. It became like a running joke, Ron Reynolds. That's right. They didn't like him. It's just that as he registered more people than anyone has registered in history, and as he stood up for people like you, they had to pay attention to it. They had to pay attention to you. So let's not talk about plantations. Come on, that's insulting to the ancestors. Stop it. I keep telling you to vote your interest and demand from anybody from any party. That's what you need to do. So let's not don't you play semantic games with me. And don't act like I'm tossing names. I don't need to do that. Because I've met everybody in the world. Everybody. People you've heard of and people who you wouldn't even care about. And not just you, Ethelene, so don't even respond to that. folks whose names most folks do not know. My grandmama served food for folks at the VA hospital for more than 30 years. She picked beans and chopped sugarcane in Cuba and throughout the Caribbean and in South Florida. Are you for real? My great grandmother couldn't read or write. Are you for real? We had to beg her to go vote for her grandson. She didn't have to admit to the world that she couldn't sign an X. That's where I come from. Are you for real? Girl, don't play with me. I'm not the one. Not, period, the, period, one, exclamation point. Now let's talk to each other, woman to woman. Let's deal with some real problems. You don't need to fight me. You can't do it. And I can't fight you. I don't know you. You're out in space somewhere. Enough. Let's figure out how to work together, and then let's move on. Representative Reynolds.
Yes,
What do you
ma'am.
got to say? Because I know he loves to see me get warmed up. That's why he's laughing.
Hey,
So he's
I
warmed
love your
up for me.
passion, sister. I love and admire your passion. There's nothing wrong with that. You are willing to put it all on the line and speak truth to power. So don't no shame there.
So what do we talk? What do we do before we go about these folks who are coming up in military gear in America, covered up faces? Because guess what? They're gonna send them. They sent somebody. They deported them to Africa.
I
They're not even
know.
some African. What, Sierra Leone, someplace? I'm like, what are you doing? It can't
Santita,
be okay with you.
it's not okay. And that is why we have to use our collective voices. We cannot do it in a silo. It is not just going to be a monolith of African Americans edited alone or Hispanics or it is all of us united, truly united with a common cause. Because, like you said, if it ain't us today, it's us tomorrow on the menu. That is
Yes.
why we cannot turn a blind eye. Now I know a lot of people tired. I've talked to them, Santita, said, look, in the barbershop, we did our part. Now let them go it alone. I'm like, nah, I understand your frustration, but that's not gonna work. So we have to caution people not to say, let's just let them hang. And so that is why it's good to have these conversations so people can rechannel these efforts and that we can have a collective vision and a collective agenda.
And we can. That's the only way we're going to win. That's the way the
The,
Lord has worked it out.
the only way, the only way. Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to you about something that's coming up now. I had to hop off.
Okay.
Governor Abbott called us back for a special session. He's adding congressional redistricting. They're about to gerrymander the ACLL out of some districts to get more Republican opportunity seats so they can hold on to Congress. So that is what I got to jump on. I'll be telling you more about it. It just broke just while I've been on with you.
You are
In
supposed to
addition,
go back and deal with this disaster on the 25th.
he added congressional redistricting with the disaster today.
You
That's what he did.
can
I,
you
I,
come
I
on tomorrow? Would
yes,
you?
you can't make this stuff up. This is what's happening. I will give you a full briefing. Let's do it tomorrow. I'm gonna have a lot to say.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All
Well,
right, love you. All right,
love you
take
too,
care. Bye
sweetie.
bye. Bye bye.
Hey everybody. You know what? Chaparral, you said you heard that they aren't ICE agents but bounty hunters and are getting money for capturing migrants. I wouldn't be surprised because remember, we've got private military contractors who fight alongside our enlistees. They fight alongside our enlistees. So our enlistees might be making, $30,000-$40,000 a year, and they're making $100,000 a year. And our enlistees are supposed to protect them. This ain't no game. So, I mean, hey, Ethelene, I hope you're still there. If you are, just know this. I love you. And I get passionate. I'm as passionate as you are. So if you want to bring it, come on. Let's do that. Because that's the way that I want to have some honest, forthright conversations with you and everybody within the sound of my voice. And we should be able to disagree without being disagreeable. You really don't know me and I don't know you. You don't. I know what you've typed. I don't know you. You don't know me. But know in my heart, I'm glad that you've been here. Know that in my heart, I don't mean any harm. Know that in my heart, I want to fight for everybody. Everybody has a right to the tree of life. And given what I've seen my own family experience, my own family, the disrespect, I don't want that for anybody. I really don't. You know, I'm glad you have no problem with me. I didn't think that you did, but I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to know that we can disagree without being disagreeable. We can get into it. And one day I cannot wait till we have a phone so you and I can talk with each other. Because I am passionate. I grew up in this. I grew up in it. I grew up with the police outside of my home and a private security force inside of my home. I never knew a day where I thought my father would be alive, would live to see the end of. I never knew that. That's all I know. And I ate my way through it. And praise the Lord, been able to lose that weight and my life was saved because it almost killed me. Just trying to hold on. I get it. So I'm just saying, come on. Let's fight the right fight. If you want to have a fight, you know what? Start in your community and get these schools that teach the trades back in our communities. Because these Eastern Europeans that you're talking about who are doing the trucking and the trades work, they come over here trained. They're trained in Ukraine. See, because nobody's talking about the tens of thousands of Ukrainians who were brought to Chicago alone by people who are of Ukrainian ancestry, like my governor, like the former Secretary of State Blinken. Nobody talks about that. Because when white people come here, we just let them come. But the brown and black people are always a problem, and I'm sick of that. And you should be sick of that too. Because they had us here for more than 200 years, Ethelene. And they would not let us be citizens. We had to fight for that. That was not an automatic after the Civil War. That was something we had to fight for. We had to fight to stay in the country that we built. This country was not built by immigrants. It was built by black people for unpaid labor. And it makes me warm thinking about it. Our blood is in this soil. And I don't want anyone to be treated the way our ancestors have been treated. No one deserves that. And that's a spiritual lesson that I have learned and that I will try to teach. We know what it's like to be dehumanized. And I don't want that for anyone else. I don't care how sick someone might be or how unlearned someone might be. And if they don't really understand and appreciate me as a full human being, shame on them. I'm still going to fight for them. Because when you know better, you do better. And God's going to hold me to account for all the wrong that I've done. If I decide to return wrong for wrong, then I'm wrong. So let's get on the right side with God. How about that part? Sending you so much love. It's not even a smaller scale. You grew up the way you grew up, Ethelene. Stop. It's not a scale thing. Your life is your life. I don't say I grew up in a big scale, small scale. I don't do that. Because I don't feel that they're big people and small people. I think that we're all people and everybody matters. Everybody comes here on a path to learn their lessons, and you learn it in the context in which you have to live. That's it. So you're not small and your life ain't small. If God thought enough of your soul to get you here, I love it. And may God bless you. You said you have 2 brothers who were shot by the cops in the 70s, and nephew shot by the cops. Hey, I hear you. And I get it. So I love you. God bless you, everybody. Have a good one. Can't wait to be with you again, everybody. I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. I am Santita Jackson, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless.